you have, I think, the familiar story of this, a genius that comes along only once in a couple of generations, Elvis. Like Picasso comes along once in a generation, or Charlie Chaplin comes along once in a generation, and alters not just the cultural form that he makes his living in, but also the society that decides this is a cultural shift that we're going to embrace, and Elvis was that. My desire, my fascination, my continuous drive was to have the Colonel become a guy who said yes to Picasso. Never, no, here's what you do, we're not going to do this. I mean, there was a standard kind of like manager, performer kind of thing. Let me tell you what we're going to do, kid. We're going to go like this. And the Colonel was not that. He was this other odd, fascinating amalgamation of Carney, you know, an old carnival guy, wicked smart businessman, dime squeezing skinflint, you know, but also a pioneer in a big type of show business that did not exist until Elvis Presley came along. You have to understand, this man was a supreme artist when it came down to his music. And the only, you don't want to say only time, but when he was at his most magical and most pure and most wonderful, most Elvis, was when he was interpreting a song that he loved. And I get it, you know. I got it based on the education I got in the course of making this movie. So I can actually say now, I listen to Elvis in a whole new way because we made this movie. And I know an awful lot about the background of each individual song and what era that he made them in. Baz was wonderfully ephemeral in what all of that was, because we had the luxury periodically of doing very, very concrete scenes in rooms with people talking to each other, without a doubt. But all the other stuff was essentially dancing through sort of like the time-space continuum that is inside Baz's mind. And you just, you know, you just go, man, you just go, man, go. And it's great hard work. It's hard work, but it's great, and it's great hard work. Because Elvis did this thing with "That's All Right, Mama," it's undeniable that that's not just lightning in a bottle. That's a comet smashing into the planet Earth, and it's altering the landscape and the climate. Elvis did that. And I think that's what the movie is about. I think Elvis is about the next evolution of cultural life after a comet smashed into the world. And it happened to land in Memphis. That's where it landed. And everything, all the fallout from that became this massive thing. The Colonel knew that Elvis would never be able to stay this guy who wiggled his hips on TV and sang rock and roll songs. So that when he came back from the Army, the Colonel turned him into Dean Martin. The Colonel turned him into the remaining that great signpost for the generation that was growing up with him. And he was right. And then along with that came, you know, the movie career, for good or for bad, but nonetheless, commerce and, you know, you could say Elvis was really great in maybe 5 movies, but I'm going to tell you right now, 3 of those movies were box office disasters, and that's what caught him. They were, you know. Everybody says, oh, the Colonel put him in all those terrible movies. The Colonel put him in movies. The Colonel didn't care what movies they were. There is a risk and responsibility that Austin took on that, when the time came, had to be huge and intimate at the same time. And I don't know how that man did it. When he came out on stage, it was electrifying, you know, and he had to do it. I think we probably had to do it 30 times of everything that was going on, and you could not take your eyes off him every single time. You just wanted to see him do it again and again and again and again. And part of that is certainly channeling. Part of it is, I think, the drive that Austin has and always has as an actor. But there's also a huge amount of faith that he had in the process and in himself. That is, it's not unlike Elvis. It's an absolute friggin' stroke of genius that you cannot say, well, that's not right. That's wrong. No, it's actually right, and it's brilliant. Elvis, rather than spend all the money to travel around the world, to have people around the world see you, why don't you do it here, and it's not going to cost, and everybody in the world will come to see you. Why go to them? Make them come to you. And they did, lo and behold. You could say, without a doubt, Elvis made Vegas the showplace that it is.